Hello, it's Philip Taylor speaking from Richmond Green Chambers. I'm looking at a book which is really very suitable for accountants and people with that disposition. It's actually called, it's this pinkish book here, Solicitors Accounts Manual, 11th edition 2009 by the Solicitors Regulation Authority, the SRA. This is my Flickr review here, which I've written with my wife Elizabeth Taylor from Richmond Green Chambers. And we had a look at this book, and because we're barristers, not solicitors, we had a think, obviously at Richmond Green Chambers, we had a think about what we might call this title, and we said, it's your money, so what's your solicitor allowed to do with it? And the questions that we pose are quite important. This is the book itself. It's very short. It's just over 100 pages long, but you see the huge amount of detail in it. A lot of regulations, nice little charts and various other things. A lot of detail, which accountants really love. And at the beginning, there's an important part right at the beginning, which is the preface, which I'll talk about in a minute. But what we decided to say, my wife runs the practice, so she's involved heavily in the accounts side of it, and I'm obviously the practicing lawyer. So what we're saying here is, if you are a solicitor, you no doubt have a copy already of the Solicitors Accounts Manual. As I said, just over 100 pages of accountancy detail for lawyers. This, however, is the 11th edition, published in 2009, and as a summary of the professional requirements in relation to the handling of client money. It incorporates a number of changes as a result, including all those made to the rules since publication of the 10th edition, and so that takes us up to the 31st of March 2009. As I say, I'm a barrister, so I don't get involved in client money, even though I do public access work. But obviously it's important to get some idea of how the system works. Of particular interest, therefore, is Part A, which sets out clearly the principles on which the rules are based, followed by interpretation, generally individual terms within the accountancy rules. And they are actually quite useful because there's quite a lot of detail and a bit of technicality, the technical stuff certainly. So first of all, a solicitor must comply with the requirements of the Solicitors Code of Conduct, 2007, another book published by the Law Society and the SRA. Specifically pertaining to the accounts rules, the solicitor must, among other things, do the following: keep other people's money separate from money belonging to the solicitor or the practice. Common sense, but you can imagine there may be problems. Use each client's money for that client's matters only. Again, common sense, but there can be problems. Establish and maintain proper accounting systems. Common sense. Account for interest on other people's money in accordance with the rules. That's an important area, even when you've got 0.5% as the base interest rate. Deliver annual accounts reports as required by the rules, and so on, including admonitions about keeping other people's money safely in a bank or building society account, which is identifiable as a client account. Intriguingly, with reference to accountants, the preface which I pointed out to you says that the Legal Services Act 2007 has introduced a mandatory whistleblowing duty for reporting accountants, reflected in an amended Rule 38. Previously, this rule provided for the right of reporting accounts to whistleblow, but they imposed no duty to do so. So, is there a duty to whistleblow? Note, it's now all one word, whistleblow. Think, if you will, of the implications and ramifications of that in the interesting times we live in, because the answer would be yes. Members of the public, as well as other practitioners within the legal profession, will also find themselves enlightened by some precise definitions under the heading interpretation of certain vague terms, such as without delay means, for example, in normal circumstances, either on the day of receipt or on the next working day. So now you know. We now seek a precise definition of what in due course means. Well, of course we then start digressing, because you then, if you're not careful, go in concentric circles. Suffice to say, therefore, that the Solicitors Accounts rules now reflect the introduction of LDPs and firm-based regulation, and it applies to the following: sole practitioners, partnerships, companies, limited liability partnerships, practices with non-solicitor lawyers and managers, and practices with up to 25% of managers who are not legally qualified. Of course, it's an area, unlike what I have at the bar, where I'm heavily regulated. This is an area that regulates people effectively outside the profession. I, as a barrister, my clerk is not regulated in anything like the same sort of way, which is an interesting point for the future and what the next successive editions will contain. In addition, the rules are applicable to individual managers and employees of those practices, and to in-house lawyers. That would be barristers, of course, as well. The preface explains much about your money and what the solicitor can do with it. And the Law Society here, through the Solicitors Regulation Authority, does just that with this regularly updated work. And as we said at the beginning, it is of course your money, and so you therefore have to know what the solicitor is allowed to do with it. It's well worth knowing about, and thank you very much for drawing it to our attention. Bye bye.